Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. So class 7. Today I am going to elaborate a topic from your unit reproduction in living organisms. This topic is important and you also have a long question answer in your notes about this topic. So I want to revise it. So stay with me. We have already done what is a flower, what is pollination, the transfer of pollens or seedlings or spores from one flower to another is the pollination. How that the pollens of a flower is transferred from the anther. Here you can see this is the anther, and from here the pollens move onto the stigma of the flower. This is the stigma, and this is how process of pollination takes place. So this pollination is of two types: self-pollination and cross-pollination. If these pollen grains from anther to stigma within the same flower takes place, it is self-pollination. If this process of pollination takes place between two different plants or different flowers, or two different flowers of two different plants, then it is known as cross-pollination. Here are the parts of a flower. These filaments are known as anther, and the upper portion, the flattened side, is known as the stigma, whereas the stalk is the style and have an ovary. Now the reproductive parts. This is the reproductive part which is in the bud of the flower. Here you can see in a larger view, the central piece is the ovule, then the outer coat is the ovary, then we have the stalk, the style, and here on the stigma the pollen grains align themselves for pollination. And this is how they move in through the process of meiosis, and then when they move in from this stalk, it is fertilized with the help of an egg. This is known as the reproductive part, and this is how the pollen grains and ovules combine. Now, through fertilization, seeds, fruits from male to female meet and fuse together, and this is known as sexual reproduction. Whereas this is also known as the process of fertilization, when these cells join together. Now the pollination, the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to stigma. Here you can see the flower. This is the anther, and it is moved from the anther to the stigma. I have repeated it that much that it should be easier for you to understand it in detail. And this process can take place between two flowers of two different plants. This is plant A and this is plant B. From this anther to this stigma. So this movement is known as pollination. Self-pollination and cross-pollination. This diagram depicts self-pollination, the anther to the stigma. This diagram depicts cross-pollination from the anther of plant B to plant A. Number 1 represents anther, number 2 represents stigma, and number 3 represents anther. One is pollens. This diagram again shows the movement cross pollination. And how does this cross pollination takes place? With the help of certain agents. What are the agents of pollination? Between two similar flowers and two different flowers. Two flowers of the same plant and two flowers of the different plant. So the agents of pollination we are studying. First of all, we should know what are pollens. All pollens of different plants have different shapes and sizes. Some are small, some are heavy, some are light, and they are carried by certain agents. This is important. What are the type of agents? Here you can see the diagram of different pollens. Now, the agents of dispersal. We can say that spore is dispersed or a seed is dispersed. They have one in the same interrelated criteria. Dispersal means scattering. So through wind, through animals, through water movement, and through any kind of explosion or natural disaster. Here again, seed dispersal or pollen dispersal by wind, water, any kind of an animal, or any explosion or disaster or natural activity. Plants do not transfer one pollen from the other by itself. So it needs a certain agent or it needs help. First agent is that may include insect pollination, wind pollination, and water pollination. These are the methods of pollination basically. First of all, insects. When an insect comes and sits on the bud of a plant, the pores or the pollen stick to its bottom, into its legs of bees, butterflies, and etc. And when that bee or butterflies go and sit on another flower of any other plant, that is known as cross pollination. This is one agent through animals. And the animals may also include sparrows, that may also include some squirrels, monkeys, or any seedling that is attached on their body and they can go and sit on another plant or any other flower, or can be touched with any other flower part, and the pollen or the seed may get attached to the stigma of another flower, so pollination is possible. The second agent was the birds, animals, which we studied. Animals can be of different types, that may also include bats and etc. Another agent is wind. Through heavy winds, the seeds or the pollen grains also travel. Pollination also takes place. And with the heavy wind flow, it may take place between two plants or between the same plant. Here you can see an example between two plants. Third is dispersal by water. How water is responsible through rainfall, through water movement or river flood, and through very strong storm, pollens can travel. Storm and water and heavy rainfall. I think I have made myself clear about different agents of pollination. I will take a short test of this unit tomorrow, the multiple choice questions and maybe some short question and answers. So go through this unit and revise your work. Stay tuned. Thank you, class.